The Parker family always looked perfect to the outside world. Beautiful home, successful careers, and a teenage daughter, Lily, who excelled in school and sports. Everyone in town admired them. But behind closed doors, cracks ran deep. I first noticed it on the day Lily's mother, Karen, shouted at her for something as small as spilling juice on the kitchen counter. Lily, calm and collected as always, apologized quietly, her eyes flicking toward her father, who didn't intervene. "Dad," I asked later, as we sat on the porch, "why didn't you say anything?" He hesitated, a shadow crossing his face. "Some things, it's better to let slide. Families, they have their rules." I didn't understand at the time. I thought it was normal. But then small things started piling up. Karen's obsession with control, her constant criticism, and the secretive phone calls she made at night. Lily, my best friend since childhood, would brush it off with a smile. "It's nothing," she'd say, but her eyes betrayed her fear. Then came the birthday party invitation from Lily herself. A quiet, casual gathering at her house. I didn't know it yet, but that evening would unravel everything I thought I knew about the Parkers. Walking into their home, everything was pristine. The scent of cake filled the air, and Lily greeted me with her signature bright smile. But as I looked around, I noticed her mother watching closely, her smile tight, calculating. "Hey, thanks for coming," Lily whispered, pulling me aside. "Tonight, you might see things differently. Just stay calm, okay?" Her words made no sense at the time. But by the end of the evening, I understood exactly why she had warned me. The party started innocently enough. Friends laughed, music played softly in the background, and Lily's parents mingled with guests. But I couldn't shake the unease that had settled in my chest since Lily pulled me aside. As the night wore on, subtle tensions became impossible to ignore. Karen hovered over every conversation, her eyes sharp, watching our every move. Her criticism of Lily's friends, her subtle jabs at family acquaintances, it was relentless, barely concealed beneath polite smiles. "Everything's fine, right?" I asked Lily quietly, standing near the staircase where no one could hear us. She nodded, though her hands trembled slightly. "Yeah, fine. Mom's just controlling. But it's always like this." I wanted to ask more, to understand the fear in her eyes, but before I could, a loud crash echoed from the living room. Karen had knocked over a vase in her anger over a minor disagreement about the party decorations. The guests froze. Lily's father, usually calm and composed, didn't intervene, only sighed heavily. "This is why I told her not to invite so many people," Karen snapped, her voice cutting through the chatter. "Some of you aren't careful enough. Not everything should be perfect." The room grew tense, and I realized something unsettling. This was normal for them. This was their reality. Lily's bright smiles, her seemingly perfect life, was built on fear and careful obedience. Later, as the guests mingled, Lily pulled me into her bedroom. "I haven't told anyone," she said, her voice shaking. "But you're my best friend. I need you to know the truth." She revealed a hidden drawer in her desk, stuffed with papers, letters, photographs, even financial documents, that hinted at secrets no one outside the family was meant to know. Evidence of Karen's obsessive control, mysterious phone calls, and unexplained absences of her father during key moments. "They're not as perfect as everyone thinks," Lily whispered. "And sometimes, I think they might be dangerous. But I don't know who to trust." My heart raced. Everything I thought I knew about the Parkers, their perfect smiles, the way everyone admired them, was a lie. And tonight, I realized that the closer you are to the truth, the more dangerous it becomes. The following days were a whirlwind of whispered conversations, late-night research, and nervous glances. Lily and I had begun piecing together the fragments of her family's hidden life. Each discovery made my stomach churn. There were documents pointing to unreported income, mysterious meetings with people none of us had ever met, and even legal disputes quietly settled behind closed doors. "I don't understand," I said one night as we sat cross-legged on her bedroom floor, surrounded by papers. "Why would your parents go to such lengths to hide all this?" Lily shook her head, eyes filled with confusion and fear. "I don't know, but I've always felt like there's something bigger than me that they're protecting. Something I'm not supposed to see." We decided we needed more information. Lily had a few contacts she trusted, teachers, neighbors, distant relatives, people who might have glimpsed the truth but never spoken about it. Our first stop was Mr. Caldwell, a retired lawyer who had once done minor work for the Parkers. His house smelled of old books and polished wood. He listened carefully as Lily explained, hesitating only when she mentioned her mother by name. Mr. Caldwell nodded slowly, finally speaking. The Parkers, they've always projected perfection, but behind the curtains, it's a different story. I wouldn't go too far digging, some secrets are better left buried. But if you insist, be careful. Very careful. His warning hung over us like a storm cloud. We left his house more determined but aware that the stakes had just risen. We couldn't turn back, not now. Over the next week, our investigation uncovered more disturbing details. Off-the-books financial accounts, late-night deliveries to obscure addresses, and phone records showing repeated contact with unknown individuals. The pieces began forming a pattern, one that suggested the Parkers were hiding not just secrets but potentially criminal activity. One evening, while going through another stack of papers in Lily's room, we found something that made us both freeze. A folder labeled, "Emergencies," containing detailed plans on how to silence anyone who threatened to reveal their secrets. Names, addresses, and contingencies were all meticulously documented. "I think they'd do anything to protect themselves," Lily whispered, trembling. "Anyone who finds out could be in danger." My pulse quickened. The thrill of uncovering the truth had turned into fear. But despite the danger, we couldn't stop. The truth had to come out, no matter the cost. Lily looked at me, determination shining through the fear. We had to expose them. Before anyone, gets hurt. I nodded, gripping her hand tightly. "Together, we'll figure this out, no matter what it takes." And in that moment, I realized that our quiet town, the perfect Parkers, and even our own lives were about to be turned upside down. The game had just begun, and the stakes were higher than ever. The next morning, I woke to a feeling of unease I couldn't shake. Even the sunlight streaming through the blinds seemed tainted. Lily was already at her desk, scanning documents, her brow furrowed. "I think they know we're looking," she whispered as I sat beside her. "Mom's been making strange calls, and Dad, he's avoiding me more than usual." Before I could respond, the phone rang. Lily hesitated, then picked it up. A distorted voice whispered, "Stop digging, or you'll regret it." The line went dead before she could say anything. My stomach dropped. This wasn't just a warning, it was a threat. "We have to be careful," I said, glancing around the room as if the walls themselves were listening. "They're watching our every move." Lily nodded, determination hardening her expression. "I don't care. We can't back down. If we stop now, all of this, the secrets, the lies, they stay hidden. And who knows what they could do to someone else." Over the next few days, subtle intimidation escalated. Strange cars parked outside her house. Items went missing from her room, and every casual question from neighbors or family felt loaded. The Parkers were tightening the noose, and it became clear that curiosity had real consequences. One night, I stayed at Lily's house to help her sort through papers. We were in her parents' study, quietly rifling through files, when the door creaked. "Who's there?" I whispered, freezing. No answer. Just a shadow slipping past the door. I held my breath as the intruder rifled through the drawers, taking only certain files. Then, a whisper from the hallway. "We warned you." Lily grabbed my hand, panic and resolve intertwining. "We need to move faster," she said. "They're not just secrets, they're dangerous." We realized we couldn't handle this alone. We needed allies, someone outside the family who could help us expose the truth without tipping off the Parkers. The next day, Lily reached out to her old history teacher, Ms. Hayes, a woman known for her integrity and investigative spirit. When we explained the situation, she listened carefully, then leaned in. "You're playing with fire," she warned. "But if you're sure, I'll help you. We'll need a plan, evidence, safety, and strategy. One wrong move could ruin everything, or worse." For the first time, I felt a glimmer of hope. With Ms. Hayes on our side, we might finally have a chance to expose the Parkers. But danger was closing in, and the first real test of courage was just around the corner. As we left her office, Lily turned to me, eyes steely. "No more hiding. No more waiting. We go all in. And if they try to stop us, we'll be ready." The stakes had never been higher, and we were only beginning to fight back. The following evening, we returned to Lily's house under the guise of normalcy. Every step felt heavy, every glance around the neighborhood charged with tension. The Parkers were watching, we knew that, and tonight might be the night they tried to silence us. We started in Lily's room, quietly organizing the papers we'd gathered so far. Ms. Hayes had given us instructions: collect evidence discreetly, avoid confrontation until absolutely necessary, and never let the Parkers know we had allies outside the family. But as we moved a stack of folders, the door creaked open. Karen appeared in the doorway, her face calm but her eyes cold. "Lily, what are you doing?" she asked, voice sweet yet filled with menace. Lily froze, holding a folder to her chest. I'm just cleaning my room," she said, trying to sound casual. Karen's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Is that so?" she asked, stepping closer. "Funny, it doesn't look like just cleaning." I felt my heart hammering in my chest. This was the first direct confrontation, and the Parkers were testing us. I stepped forward, standing beside Lily. "Mom, we're just going through some old papers. It's nothing serious." Karen's gaze shifted to me, sharp and calculating. "And you, Emma, always sticking your nose where it doesn't belong. Be careful. You might regret this." A chill ran down my spine. Her threat wasn't empty, it was a warning. I realized then that fear alone would not protect us. We had to be smart, careful, and precise. Suddenly, the sound of a key turning in the lock made us both jump. Mr. Parker entered, calm but stern. "What's going on here?" he asked, scanning the room. His eyes lingered on the papers. I'm just helping Lily organize things," I said, trying to maintain composure. Mr. Parker's lips pressed into a thin line. "I think it's time we had a family discussion," he said. There was an edge to his voice that made me instinctively tense. Lily looked at me, eyes wide but resolute. "We can't back down, Emma," she whispered. Karen and Mr. Parker moved closer, their presence oppressive, suffocating. But just as the tension peaked, my phone buzzed, a signal from Ms. Hayes. "Now," the message read. I knew exactly what it meant. We had one chance to act. I grabbed the folder with the evidence, and together, Lily and I slipped it into my bag. Karen noticed, but before she could react, I said firmly, "We're leaving. There's nothing more to discuss." Her eyes narrowed, fury flashing. "You think you can just walk away?" I met her gaze without flinching. "We're not walking away. We're taking the truth with us. And soon, everyone will see what you've been hiding." Karen and Mr. Parker exchanged a glance, calculating, and then stepped aside. For now, we had won this confrontation, but the danger was far from over. As we left the house, the adrenaline still pulsing through our veins, I realized one thing. The Parkers' perfect world was cracking, and we were the ones holding the hammer. The night air was cold, sharp, but invigorating as Lily and I walked to Ms. Hayes' office with the evidence safely in my bag. Every step felt like defiance. For the first time, we were moving from secrecy to action, from fear to courage. Ms. Hayes greeted us warmly but seriously. "Are you ready for this?" she asked, her eyes scanning the files. "Once we start, there's no turning back. People will see everything, your neighbors, friends, even authorities. Are you sure you want to proceed?" Lily nodded firmly. "We have to. We can't let them keep hiding behind perfection while hurting others." I swallowed hard. "We're ready." The next few days were a whirlwind. We met with journalists and legal advisors, carefully presenting the evidence, the hidden accounts, the suspicious contacts, and the threatening documents labeled emergencies. Each piece confirmed the pattern of manipulation and intimidation the Parkers had meticulously maintained. But as our efforts gained momentum, the Parkers sensed the threat. Subtle intimidation turned into overt attempts to regain control. Strange cars followed us, calls with distorted voices threatened us, and once, as we left Ms. Hayes' office, we found a note tucked under the windshield wiper. "Stop now, or regret it." I felt fear creeping in, but Lily squeezed my hand. "We've come too far," she said. "They can't stop the truth." Then came the breakthrough. A local news outlet ran an anonymous exposé based on the files we'd provided. The story spread quickly, igniting whispers throughout the town. Neighbors who once admired the Parkers began asking questions. Friends and acquaintances started noticing the inconsistencies. The Parkers' perfect world began to crumble. Karen's composure faltered in public, her carefully maintained image cracking. Mr. Parker's calm demeanor faltered under scrutiny. And at home, the tension was palpable. Every glance, every whispered conversation, every phone call was laden with fear. One evening, Lily turned to me, eyes wide with awe and relief. "It's working. People are finally seeing them for who they are." I nodded, exhausted but determined. "But they'll fight back." Expect retaliation. We had to be ready. And sure enough, the Parkers did retaliate. Our homes were monitored, messages sent to friends warning them away from us, and more threats arrived, veiled but menacing. Every step forward felt like walking a tightrope. Yet, even in the face of danger, I felt a growing sense of empowerment. For the first time, I realized that truth was stronger than fear. And with Lily by my side, we weren't just exposing secrets, we were reclaiming our lives. The battle was far from over, but the first blow had been struck. And the Parkers would have to confront the consequences of their deception, whether they liked it or not. The following week felt like walking through a storm. Every morning brought a new threat. Emails with empty subject lines, strange text messages warning us to stop, even shadows lurking near our homes. The Parkers weren't just trying to intimidate, they were escalating, desperate to regain control. Lily and I met with Ms. Hayes in her office, the air tense with urgency. "They're getting bolder," she said, flipping through a stack of messages. "If they corner you, you could be in real danger. You have to be strategic, don't confront them directly unless absolutely necessary." I clenched my fists. We can't just hide. They've caused enough damage already. People need to know the truth. Ms. Hayes nodded. "I understand. But remember, the goal is exposure without risking yourselves unnecessarily. Information is your weapon, not physical confrontation." That night, as we reviewed documents in Lily's room, a shadow moved outside the window. My heart raced. "They're watching," I whispered. Suddenly, the power flickered and went out. The room plunged into darkness. I grabbed a flashlight from the drawer while Lily clutched my arm. "Stay calm," I said, though my own voice wavered. Then we heard it, a subtle creak at the door. Someone was inside the house. Panic surged, but training our eyes on the silhouette, we realized it wasn't Karen or Mr. Parker. It was one of the Parker's associates, a man who had been following us. I flicked the flashlight on, revealing him frozen in place. "Get out," I shouted. He hesitated, then bolted, disappearing into the night. But the message was clear. The Parkers were not backing down. The next day, we intensified our strategy. Using the recordings, financial documents, and hidden communications, we compiled an airtight case. Journalists, authorities, and even former employees who had feared speaking out were contacted. We were no longer two vulnerable teenagers. We were a team armed with evidence and resolve. That evening, as we monitored the news, the first cracks in the Parkers' facade became public. A local newspaper published a detailed exposé revealing the hidden accounts, the secret dealings, and the patterns of intimidation. The town buzzed with whispers. Admiration for the Parkers turned into shock and suspicion. Karen's composure fractured in public appearances. Mr. Parker, usually untouchable, grew anxious, canceling social events and avoiding neighbors. And at home, the tension was unbearable. Lily turned to me, eyes shining with determination and fear. "We've forced their hand," she said. "They can't intimidate us forever." I nodded. "They'll try, but the truth is stronger than their threats. And we're ready for whatever comes next." The battle had escalated beyond threats and whispers. It was now a war for truth, courage, and survival, and the Parkers were on the defensive for the first time in decades. The tension had reached its peak. The Parkers, cornered by public exposure, grew desperate. Their threats escalated, but now their fear was apparent. They had built their lives on control, perfection, and secrecy, and all of it was crumbling. Lily and I prepared for the final confrontation. Ms. Hayes had arranged a meeting with local authorities and investigative journalists to reveal the full extent of the Parkers' manipulations, hidden finances, and intimidation tactics. It was risky, but there was no turning back. The day arrived. I held Lily's hand as we walked into the room filled with officials and reporters. Across the table sat Karen and Mr. Parker, their composure cracked, their smiles forced. "Everything we've uncovered," Ms. Hayes began, "demonstrates a pattern of control, intimidation, and deception. These documents, recordings, and testimonies provide a clear picture of the reality behind the Parker family's so-called perfect life." Karen's eyes narrowed, her lips pressed into a thin line. This is ridiculous," she spat. "You're twisting the truth." But the proof was undeniable. Screens displayed images, videos, and documents, each telling a story the Parkers couldn't deny. Witnesses who had once feared speaking came forward, confirming details, recounting experiences, and solidifying the evidence. Mr. Parker attempted to interrupt, But the journalists and authorities were meticulous, leaving no room for deception. The power they had relied on for decades had vanished in an instant. Lily's voice trembled but was firm. We tried to tell the truth privately first. We tried to understand and forgive. But secrets that hurt people, they can't stay hidden. Karen's face paled as the room collectively absorbed the gravity of the revelations. Her attempts at control were over. Mr. Parker's defenses crumbled. He looked to her, and I saw the fear that had been hidden for so long. After hours of testimonies and reviews, the authorities confirmed they would investigate, and journalists would continue publishing the verified findings. The Parkers were powerless to stop the tide of exposure. Outside, Lily turned to me, relief washing over her face. "It's finally over," she whispered. I nodded, exhausted but resolute. "For now, but the truth stays out there. And they can't control it anymore." As we walked out of the room, the city lights reflected a new beginning. The Parkers' empire of secrets had fallen, and for the first time, Lily and I could breathe without fear. The days after the exposé were surreal. The town buzzed with whispers, speculation, and judgment. People who had once admired the Parkers now looked at them with suspicion, and their friends and neighbors distanced themselves. Lily and I became, reluctantly, the center of attention. Some praised our courage, while others whispered that we had destroyed a perfect family. But for the first time, neither of us cared. We had uncovered the truth, and the freedom that came with it was more valuable than approval. Karen and Mr. Parker retreated from public life, their attempts to maintain appearances failing. Every social interaction became strained, every lie exposed by the careful documentation we had provided. Their control over their household, friends, and community was gone. Despite the tension, life began to normalize for Lily and me. School resumed, routines restarted, and the ever-present fear gradually lifted. But the experience had changed us. We were no longer the same teenagers who had quietly lived under the shadow of the Parkers' perfection. We had discovered courage, resilience, and the strength of truth. One afternoon, Lily and I sat in the park, reflecting on everything. "I can't believe it's over," she said, tracing patterns in the sand with her finger. "It's not just over," I replied. "It's a new beginning, for both of us." She smiled, her eyes clear and bright. "I never thought I'd see this day, free from fear, free from secrets." We laughed softly, a sound that felt like liberation. The world felt different, brighter, more honest, and filled with possibility. The Parkers' empire of lies had crumbled, and the weight that had hung over our lives was finally lifted. Yet, in the back of my mind, I knew life would always carry shadows. People could hide secrets, and power could corrupt. But we had learned something essential: courage, truth, and integrity were stronger than fear, deception, or control. And with that knowledge, Lily and I began to reclaim our lives fully, forging a future defined not by the shadows of others, but by the light we carried within ourselves. Months had passed since the Parker family's secrets were exposed. Life had settled into a rhythm of cautious peace. The town slowly adjusted to the revelations, and the Parkers remained largely isolated, their influence diminished. Lily and I walked down familiar streets, but everything felt different. The weight of fear had been lifted, replaced with a sense of empowerment. People who once whispered about us now offered smiles of respect, acknowledging the courage it took to stand against deception. "I still can't believe how much change," Lily said, glancing around the neighborhood. "It's like we're living in a different world now." I nodded. "It's not just the world, Lily. It's us. We've changed. We're stronger, smarter, and braver than we thought we could be." School became easier in ways I hadn't expected. No longer under the shadow of constant intimidation, Lily excelled in ways that reflected her true self. I found confidence in my voice, my choices, and my friendships. We were no longer just survivors, we were empowered. The Parkers' influence had diminished so significantly that even their former friends began to speak out, sharing their own stories. Justice, slow but steady, began to take root, while the community learned that appearances could be deceiving and courage could change everything. One evening, Lily and I sat on the hill overlooking the town, the sun dipping below the horizon. "Do you think we're really free?" she asked softly. "We are," I said, looking at the horizon. "Not just from them, but from the fear that once held us back. We have control over our own lives now. And nothing can take that away." We sat in silence, the warm breeze carrying away the tension that had haunted us for so long. The future felt open, unshackled, and bright. We had faced threats, uncovered lies, and stood up for truth, and in doing so, we had discovered something invaluable: resilience, friendship, and the power to reclaim our lives. Lily turned to me with a smile, one that no longer hid fear or doubt. "Here's to new beginnings," she said. "To new beginnings," I echoed. And for the first time in years, it truly felt like the start of something beautiful. The shadows of the past lingered only as lessons, and the promise of tomorrow stretched out before us, unbroken and full of possibility.